Hi everyone. We are just getting started. Just allow us like 2 minutes or so. Cool. If anyone is watching us, can someone give me a confirmation if you all can see me and hear me as well? Before we actually get started with the work, I mean, the actual learning part. Great. I am just waiting for an affirmation and post which we'll start. Let me just help me understand with the audio part. So yeah, thank you, Sanskar. So Sanskar, is my audio clear? Like, or do you want? Should I be putting in the earphone? Okay, great, cool. I think thank you so much for the people who are joining. Uh, might take a little time for others to join in. I know it's Sunday today, and I hope I'm not spoiling your Sunday. But for the fact that you know, I thought we'll do it on the Sundays because people are mostly home, and they can invest maybe an hour or so to actually in learning something, right? So here we are, and welcome to the session, to another YouTube live session, wherein we are going to be talking about. In this particular session, we are going to be talking about things related to Java, right? So if I start, so Java, I'm not sure if you are already aware of. I mean, if you are already aware of the programming language, but unlike the other programming languages that exist, Java is one of them, right? And uh, before we actually start writing code in Java and see what goes around, let's just quickly understand the keyword, which is a programming language. I'm sure a lot of you might be aware of it, but if you're not, for you, it is going to be a quick kind of like a brush up on what exactly programming language is all about. So just to give you a quick understanding, programming languages are a language which helps you communicate with your machine, right? By machine, we mean it could be your laptop, it could be your computer, it could be your mobile phone, etc. Right? Now, for every communication to be possible, right, you need to know a language. So language is more like something which serves as a medium to communication, right? So if you want to do a human interaction, right, you need to know a language very popular. One of the languages English. We have Hindi, we have Marathi, we have so many Japanese, Chinese, so many languages, which helps you communicate with humans. And the the interesting part is both of the humans, if they're interacting and if they want a successful interaction to happen, should know a common language, right? Otherwise, it's tough to interact. Similarly, we have different programming languages which serves different purpose, very similar to how a human interaction language, is applicable in real world, right? So programming languages are also same, very similar to I mean, not very similar, but as in uh, something, a medium to communicate with your machine, right, or a computer for that matter, right? Now, every programming language that we study has a purpose attached to it, right? Some are made for X reason, some are made for Y reason, some are made for Z reason, right? We'll talk about all of those reasons specifically for core Java a little later. But all you need to understand is a programming language is a medium to communicate with the machine, and you need to know a language which is understood by machine. And there are a bunch of languages available. One of those language is core Java that we're going to be looking at in today's session. Okay. Now, uh, another thing that we should be understanding, I'm expecting that whoever is watching or will be watching later this particular uh, video might have had some idea of any of the programming language that exists. Let's say maybe it could be as simple as C language, right? So the reason why multiple language exists, like someone can question ki, why to study another language when C already existed, right? So the very simple answer to that question is every language has a purpose attached to it, right? And every language has some or the other form of limitations, which after a certain beyond a certain point, couple of things changes wherein you need to recreate things based on that particular thing, right? So considering all of those things, there are different languages. Now, talking about particularly core Java or Java, let's just remove core Java. I mean, there's another debate that happens around core Java or Java, what is the right word to use? But I think let's call it Java. Uh, One of the use case scenario of knowing Java as a language is mobile application development, right? So very popular in the space of Android application development. So if you want to get into that space of Android application development, uh, Java is your go-to language, or Java is one language that would help you build Android-based mobile application. Second is you can create full stack website. When we say full stack means a website which has front end and back end both, right? So Java helps you build a full stack website. It's a very powerful backend language, right? There are so many things. If we talk about on the backend part attached to Java, right? But just to give you and summarize a rough idea around it, uh, one of the very, I mean, two of the very popular space where Java you would see today is the full stack and a mobile application, right? And apart from that, I think that is, I hope you have at least understood that the language, where are the languages going to be used for, right? Is very important to understand, because then it becomes easy and exciting to learn the particular language. Now, another use case for Java as a programming language, since it's an object-oriented language, is people use for general coding purpose, right? People use for the data structure algorithm stuff, right? Just to solve problem, right? Now, to solve the problem, you can choose any of the languages available, but people particularly choose, or sometimes they choose for core Java or Java for that matter, because they think, ki, let's start with Java and and solve problems, and maybe later I can extend my skill around Java to mobile application or to web application, right? That's the reason most of the time people code in Java when it comes to solving problems around data structure algorithm stuff, right? And sometimes people say which language to choose, C++ or core Java. So I think it's absolutely on you. If your objective is just to solve a problem of or just to work on DSA stuff, DP stuff, you can choose any of the language, right? Whichever you want. Usually people go for CPP or C++. The reason is because they've already studied C in their lower semesters in classes, so it is easy for them to extend it. But people who are opting for core Java are the people who literally haven't gone through any language in the past. Not majority, but a lot of people have that mindset. And then people think, "Ki, chalo, let's learn Java because it could be extended to different tech stacks moving forward later on." So I think it's absolutely on to you which language you should be choosing for data structure algorithm stuff. But I think one of the idea that I gave you is why people particularly choose for C++ is also a very powerful language, no doubt into that. And it can be extended into different space. I mean, game development is one such space where it's very popular. But I think apart from that, it's absolutely your choice to choose the language if you're working on, if you're planning to just solve the data structure algorithm or the problem solving stuff, right? Okay, so I think before we actually dive deeper into, I just used one word called object-oriented programming language. So I'm going to be emphasizing a bit on that before I start actually sharing my screen and talk about and start writing simple codes and see how the Java actually looks like. So, but I hope now you have a clear picture of what language to choose. I mean, absolutely, it's on to you. And second of all, is you have a clear picture of, uh, what's the future extends. I mean, how could the language be extended later on? All the languages have a future. There's something or the other that is built using the existing languages. So don't think, this particular language has more career opportunities and this does not. Each one of rule in their personal spaces, right? So if you talk about web development, Java is one such language. JavaScript is another such language. You talk about um, AI, machine learning, all of these spaces. Python and R is another language. Python is very popular over there. It rules that space. So, you know, and every language, if you try to compare Python for problem solving, I think there you would not see Python performing as much as C++ or Java for that matter. Or if you try to compare C++ in the web development space, you would not be able to see the use case over there. So please do not compare a language which is made for a very particular reason and they rule that particular space. They will always rule that particular space. And if you try to interchange and compare with other spaces, you might feel confused and trouble figuring it out, which is the most or which is the most powerful language or which is the best language of 2023 or 2024, 2022. All of these are just a trap. Trust me on that part. Because you search, people create a content around the same. So that's how it goes. Now, I use this word called OOPS, right? The object-oriented programming. So when we talk about C language particularly, C language used to be a procedural language, right? And there was a limitation around solving problems with a procedural language, and thus the OOPS, the object-oriented programming language, got introduced. And now I'm little trying to like move a little faster if in case you feel you want me to reiterate or come back to the topic and speak a bit again on any particular part of the conversation, I can do that. But I'm expecting at least to have some idea of C language, so taking it from there. But if in case you do not have, please feel free to drop it in the chat till we are live. Once it's recorded, I mean, there's no point dropping it in the chat. Anyways. So object-oriented programming language speaks about certain concepts such as encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction, polymorphism, all of these things. These are the standalone concepts which put together and under one umbrella makes it an object-oriented. Now, as the name itself suggests, when we talk about object-oriented, everything in a programming language is treated as an object. An object is, yes, exactly the same object that you would have been thinking. Object is not different in a programming language. Object is object everywhere, right? Let's say if you have this, I mean, AirPod or something, the box of that, this is an object, right? And you have the phone here. The phone is an object, right? So, everything is converted into an object when we talk about an object-oriented programming language, particularly, right? And all of these languages have certain features, which includes the concept of inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation. Uh, did I miss on to something? Yeah. So I think, getting into the details of all of these concepts particularly might take a little longer time to explain, more than the longer time to explain. I think that's a whole together another journey that we would subscribe to. But we'll come to that part a little later. But let's just look the simple syntaxes of core Java. or Java as a language, how does that look like? And let's just simply like write a hello world program. I'm sure when you were starting out with C language, you might have written a hello world program. That's the one way to start with. So, okay, help me if you are able to see my screen into uh, when I present it over here. So let me share my entire screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. So the IDE that I'm going to be using, right? So this is just a simple text editor. So I'm going to be using an IDE, right? IDE is a place where I'll be writing my code, right? The full form stands for Integrated Development Environment. So the IDE that I'm going to be using for writing my Java code is BlueJ, right? And I've already installed it. It's very simple. You can simply hop onto uh, BlueJ's website, jump onto this, and you can choose whatever operating system you're using, and you can download based on that, right? So very simple to download. So uh, for this particular workshop, I'm going to be using BlueJ as my IDE, right? So this is how the BlueJ would look like, right? So yeah, simple. An IDE which has something like this. This is the interface, right? There are a bunch of other IDEs that can also be used. You can also go for an online compilers just to practice if you're practicing parallel to this session. Or you can also go for NetBeans, all of these platforms to practice parallelly. So the choice absolutely is yours. Code editor and ID. So Aryavrat, they are both basically same thing, right? Uh, I mean, both of them gives you an option to write code, right? And both of them are, very a place where you would where you would write code and you would compile it and you would run it and you would execute it, right? So as such, if you're talking with respect to the writing part of the code, they're almost same, right? ठीक है. Now, particularly IDEs, if you talk about, let's say the BlueJ for that matter, it comes pre-installed with the dependencies. Let's say JDK is one such dependencies which needs to be present in your system in order to run Java codes. So this is completely like a package which will help you without being worried about installing some extra stuff or dependencies, just simply write a code, right? So this is an IDE, right? And in Java, what happens is, or when we talk about the concepts of object-oriented programming language, we write uh, the program from the class, right? So let me just show you over here. So let's say if I take you back to the good old days, the C language, the code usually used to start from here, right? I mean, for particularly the C language that you used to write. Okay? So something like this used to happen. Printf, I'm sure. I hope I'm able to recall it. Okay? Something like this. Okay? This was the old, back when we used to write the C language. But when we talk about, object-oriented language, particularly, or particularly Java for that matter, the starting of the code is very different. Like, this is not how we write, right? So let's just have a look onto that part. I'll be creating a new class. Once I click on it, I give a name to my class, right? Let's say I say, uh, hi, YT, something like that. Or let me say, hello. Okay. So I've created a class whose name is hello, right? Now I would go inside this particular class to further open up the editor, right? And write the code. Okay. So this is how the editor would look like. And I'll go inside it. And there are some dummy text over here. I'll just control A and delete it. Okay. And then over here, I'm going to be writing the code for Java. So my first code for Java. So this is how the language starts. Starts from class. Let's say the class name I've already defined is hello, right? And then after hello over here, we write this line which is public static void main string args. Don't worry, we are going to be talking about each of the meaning of each of these keywords a little later. But for now, just let's run a simple hello world program in Java and see how it looks like. System.out.println, say hello, hello, let's say Arya. So I have my phone on the right to see the chat. Okay, so this is a simple program which is just to print hello world in Java, right? Don't worry, it might seem little too much of code, but honestly speaking, trust me, it's the easiest once you understand the basic structure, right? Now what we'll do is we'll click on this compile option available over here, right? Over here, you click on compile, it gives me class compiled, no syntax error, right? Now, after that, what happens is I'll close this. I'll go back to my this section where I had created my class. Let me just compile it once again. This was my hello. Okay. Now I'll go to this section again. I'll do the right click and I'll run my main method right over here. So I click on main, I click on OK, and I get my answer as hello Aryavrat. Trust me, guys, if this is the first time you're doing any object-oriented programming language, trust me, this is really not tough. By far, personally, I feel it's the easiest language, but you would have another uh, answer to that. But it's just that you need to understand few basics, and then rest of the things become repetition, right? So you're writing the same thing again and again, again and again. It kind of like becomes repetition. So this is how we end up creating our Hello World program in Java. And the code for that is this. Okay. Yeah. Now, any if you have any doubt or something, I just have access to the chat on the right. Please feel free to drop it here. I would love to answer that part, but I don't expect any doubt as of now. And let's just try to understand the meaning of each of these line that exists over here. We have class, then we have curly bracket, then we have second line public static, then we have third line system, semicolon, inverted commas, all of those things. So whenever we write a program in Java, it always is written in the scope of class. When I say scope of class, means anything that is written in between the opening and closing curly bracket is the scope of that particular class. So curly bracket defines the scope. It is very similar to um, so let's say if you're staying in your house, right? Your house has a boundary, right? Now, what is the boundary? That boundary is a scope of the area that you own, right? If you jump out of the boundary, you will be going to someone else's land, right? Or place, right? So curly brackets work is to define the scope. And for the class hello, the scope of that hello is in between the curly bracket, right? So if we keep on expanding, the scope accordingly keeps on increasing. Okay. So I hope you have understood curly bracket. Now, another thing is we talk about class, right? So class is very similar to, let's say, if I give you a real world example and we talk about class mobile, right? Or class laptop, let's say. Okay. Or so, or let's talk about the real class that we study in, right? Class one, two, three, four, five, six, right? Now, each of these class, when we were back in school days, we went through class one, class two, class three, class four, class five, class six, class seven, right? Now, each of these class had certain uh, attributes and properties attached. Okay, let me not mix it with, or if that keyword is a little fancy to digest, let's just skip that definition. But let's say the class is simple, one of those classes which we had studied, and each of those classes had a name attached to it, right? How would you identify this is class fifth, this is class sixth, this is class fourth, this is class one? There has to be a name given to each of these classes in particular, right? So hello is the name of my class, right? As simple as that. So class, related with, or try to visualize it with the real classes that we have studied and gone in the past, back in school time, class one, class two, class three, class four. And inside the class, there are a bunch of information. We'll talk about that a little later, but we're just talking about the uh, overview that there's something that is known as class exists, and to identify the class uniquely, there has to be a name given to it, right? And what is the name we gave for this particular class? It's hello, as simple as that, right? I could have given it fifth or something, but I mean, since we chose to name the class hello, we'll stick to the hello. Okay. And another thing is the curly bracket, that's the scope. Now, when I talk about scope, I mean, I talk about uh, the scope of a particular class, which in this case is hello. It's the boundary. Now, inside that boundary, there are so many things happening. There are students, there are bench, there are desk, there's blackboard, there's whiteboard, there's marker, there's fan, there's AC, so many things, right? Same as in Python, Satish. So classes, the concept of classes are almost same across all the languages, but I was just trying to give you a real life example so that you can like correlate while we are moving ahead. Okay. Another line that we write below is public static void main, and we say string args. Now, trust me, when I say that this line that I have just written, right? Then you are going to be rewriting every time you are working on a program on Java. So after one or two, three practice, I mean, you will get into a habit of writing these lines again and again and again and again and again. Uday, yes, creating a class is necessary here, right? So you will end up writing these, three, four lines again and again. So it will eventually become your habit. So don't get worried about things like, it is tough to memorize and all of those things. A lot of codes will be you will be writing it so many times that it will actually become habit and you will memorize it automatically. Now, there are certain code editors which gives you a suggestion. When you just write public, it will give you a suggestion of entire line static void main string args, right? Now, personally, I feel if you're at a learning stage, do not use those editors, because over there you will be relying more on editor versus more on your brain. So invest, let's say, at least 1 month of time or 2 months or 3 months of time by writing it yourself and not relying on those smart editors. And after that, I think once you have got good understanding of the language to, you know, write code faster, error free, all of those things, in that case scenarios, you can use those editors. That's absolutely fine. But for now, while you are learning, I would say not to rely on those things. Okay. Now there are keywords over here. The keyword which is known as public, static, void, main, string, args, right? So let's talk about all of these things. So public over here is your access modifier, right? Access modifier is I mean, the responsibility of it is to just take care of the security stuff, right? who are allowed to access things, right? Just trying to give you some simple understanding. So there are keywords like public, which we are using, the keywords like protected, the keywords like private, right? Now all of these keywords, their responsibility is to restrict the accessibility or modification of the code, right? So if it's public, you have access, right? If it's private, you have a restricted access. If you have protected, you have a restricted access. Only particular person or set of people can access that particular information. Okay. So very similar to if you relate it in your day-to-day life, there are these public places, public bus stand, which is accessible to everyone, right? Or let's say if you talk about railway station, there are these public sitting places where everyone can sit. Then there is this private sitting places, which is restricted to people who have AC tickets, which is like giving it is more like a waiting area for people who have tickets. And us par bhi there is sleeper ka alag, there's this ACs ka alag, and ACs also there are classes. So those are restricted to people who do not have tickets and all of those things, right? So as simple as that, public has to deal with the accessibility or the security or the privacy of things. Okay. Moving on to the next, static is an interesting keyword, right? So when we talk about object-oriented programming language in particular, the role of static over here when we define in front of the main is to actually ठीक है Satish, why is like, are you asking why or just typing y means why? If you can just break it down for me, I would take it. Uh, I mean, or he's trying to say yes. I'm not sure. I'm bad, Satish, in guesses. So help me if I'm not able to guess it properly. So when we talk about static, the definition, if I just read out a definition for you guys, it is a keyword used to indicate the method or a variable belongs to the class itself rather than to instances of the class. Now, this is very fancy definition. A lot of time when I ask people in an interview or so about static, they end up, ये चिपका देते हैं and मुझे कुछ नहीं समझ में आता है. Instance or instances, ये सब keyword use हो जाता है. But for now, because we haven't learned much about object-oriented concepts, बट वी हैव सम आइडिया कि ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड चीजें एग्जिस्ट करती हैं, एंड ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड चीजों में एवरीथिंग इज ट्रीटेड एज एन ऑब्जेक्ट, राइट? सो बेसिकली static, as the definition says, that your method main, right? So every program will have a method जहां से उसको वो execute होगा, right? So over here हमें इस पर्टिकुलर प्रोग्राम को एक्सेस करने के लिए या इस पर्टिकुलर मेथड को एक्सेस करने के लिए हमें ऑब्जेक्ट बनाने की जरूरत नहीं है. नाउ अगर नहीं समझ में आया तो थोड़ा सा रुक जाना, ट्राई टू इग्नोर इट फॉर नाउ. Later, when we are discussing about, when we are seeing the concept of object creation and all of those things, it will make more sense. But for now, try to understand that if you use static, you would not be needing to create an object to access your main method. As simple as that. Okay. Second is void. It's a very popular thing if you're coming from a C language background. And I think यहाँ पे मैंने एक लिखा भी था. Not sure if I can get it back. So over here I had written int, right? So every function, right, that we create needs to have a return type, right? इन सभी word में ही उनका meaning है, right? Return type. Now you want a function to return something, or you do not want a function to return something. By the way, function and methods are same thing, right? In Java, we usually call it a method, but in other programming language, we call it a function, right? But they are same thing. So now you want a function to return something, or you want a function which does not return, right? So if you want a function where you're not expecting a return, you write void over there, right? But if you want a function to return something, then you specify what exactly you're looking for as a return. Is it int? Is it float? Is it double? And then accordingly you write it. If I show it over here, I've written int, then I've specified return 0, right? It's a all together a big story to discuss on return types. I think one of my favorite thing. Why do we write return zero? Why we write int? Or it could have been instead of zero, we could write anything, but not a string. All of those things. But I think we'll talk about all of those things sometime later. But the objective of today's session is just to give you a quick overview of core Java, right? And then one we are going to be creating a code for a very popular game that you might have played in the school days. Let's just see how that goes. So yeah, void is basically you're writing void if you do not want your main method to return something. Okay. Now main is a method, right? This is where let's talk before talking about main. Let's particularly understand what exactly function or method is all about, right? Now function and method is something which deals with a task. Okay. Let's say we talk about a concept of birthday function, marriage function, farewell function, right? So we say birthday and then we say function. So over here, I'm saying main function, birthday function, right? There's something where something happens. If I talk about birthday function, the birthday celebration happens over there. If I talk about marriage function, the marriage is happening over there in that particular function, right? Similarly, if I talk about main method or main function, and as the name suggests, it's the main entry point, to get access to everything that is written inside the scope, right? So every function, let's say, if I make it visualize to you, so kind of like main is like your entry door or gate to get inside the class. Now you have identified that let's say if you're looking for your brother who's in the fifth class, right? So let's say if you've identified fifth class yahan pe hai, right? Yeah, second floor pe hai, third floor pe hai. So to enter into that class, you have to cross a main, and a main is like a door to your that particular classroom. Right? As simple as that, you can visualize in that way, right? So main is exactly, main is actually the entry point uh, over here, right? And it does not return anything. Void is written over here, means it does not return anything. Another thing we have is a string. So string is the data type. There are like a couple of data types that you might have studied in the C language. Like int, char, all of these data types. Similar to the same concept of data types, over here we have a string, which string actually is a data type which collects information in the form of multiple words and characters, let's say, right? And args over here is the argument. It is actually like a variable. You can write anything over here, right? Let's say I can write number, which will not make any sense actually, but let's say if I write name, right? But usually, as per the Java standard, people usually write args. You can write anything over here. It will work absolutely fine because it's just the name of the data type, right? But why? I mean, Java has standardized it with the args word so that it is like a argument kind of thing that you have in your head. Ki full form to argument hi hona chahiye iska. As simple as that. But you can use anything. Now, another thing that you see is opening and closing bracket, which is the symbol of array. And I'm expecting you might be aware of it if you're coming from a C language background. If not, please help me in the chat. We'll talk about arrays as well, right? So this is a symbol of array. Very simple. We have public, which is access modifier, static, which talks about not creation of object. We have void, which talks about no return type. We have main, which is a method or a function and is an entry point. Then we have a string, which is the data type. We have args, which is the name of the variable. And then we have this array symbol, right? If you have any problem or any confusion at this point of time, please type it in the chat. I'll have a look on it. But always remember, every function will have a bracket, right? So let's say main it has this opening and closing bracket. If I talk about, if I create a function like add, it will always have. So anything that has this opening and closing bracket is always treated as a function. Always remember. It's one way to identify. Okay. Now, a lot of you can question, I'm not sure if that question is coming to you or not, कि can I swap public static void main string या just गलती से ऊपर नीचे आगे पीछे लिख सकते हैं? So the answer to that is partially yes. So you can swap public static with each other. You can write static first, public later, but you cannot remove void from the left side of a function, right? So every function has to have a return type exactly written on the left side of it, right? Either it's void or you are specifying a return. So you cannot interchange their position, but you can obviously interchange their positions. And then again, once we have understood this, then again we have a curly bracket which talks about the scope of my main method or a function, right? So yeah, that was it about these two lines. But trust me, you will get used to it the more you write. Now, when we want to print out something as an output, the line to that is written. I'm going to be writing that line because in C language you write printf, but in Java you write system dot out dot print. Sorry, my bad. Println, and in the bracket, double inverted commas, you write hello world. Let's say, okay, and then semicolon. Now, this line is kind of like an instruction that is being given to your system, right? Hey, look, system, you need to output something, you need to print, and that is anything that is written in the double inverted comma, that is hello world. Okay? So consider it like an instruction being given to your system to print out something. And what is that something? Anything that is written in the double inverted commas. So anything that is written in the double inverted commas are treated as a string. Okay. And then we have this tiny little semicolon, which by the way has so much of importance. The purpose of this semicolon is end of the line. So this is usually written just to end the line, end of the line. Okay. So that's why we use semicolon after this thing. Now, if you recall the concept that I've explained it to you, that anything that has a bracket, like opening and closing bracket, is known as function. So over here, similarly, we have println, which has this opening and closing bracket, right? So this is a function. Okay. Now, Java is a language which is case sensitive, right? So it will not run if it has like mix of uppercase, lowercase. Things which are supposed to be written in the uppercase needs to be in the uppercase. The ones in lowercase needs to be in lowercase. So make sure you're not making mistake onto that part. And the more you write code, the better understanding you will have. Now we can compile the code. The code says no syntax error. And this is ready. We can run it. We'll get our output. So initially, when we ran for the first time, it was hello Aryavrat. Second time we ran is hello world. We can clear these outputs if needed. So yeah, that was the sweet and simple Java code, the fastest Java code that anyone could write on the planet. And I hope you have understood these couple of lines that we have written, right? So I'm not sure if you're watching me live or you're a little back live. I mean, not literally streaming it live, but a little way behind. But if you are, can you give me a confirmation in the chat? Maybe you can just write you in the chat for me to understand if you've understood. And then we can talk about a simple, other things that we have in Java to talk about in today's session. Or maybe if you feel, okay, so Satish says yes. Or maybe if you are overwhelmed and you feel like काफी कुछ सीख लिया, समझ लिया, which is like 3, 4 lines, 5 lines, we can wind it up over here and maybe can take another session where we can actually build the game. So do you have a bandwidth? Do you want me to continue taking the session, or you want to like go on a break and maybe the game that we want to build can be extended to some other day? Can you guys help me in the chat? I see a couple of people live. Great. And people who have joined a little late, maybe you could just read. Maybe I'm not sure if the recording of the session would be available, but if you can like go through it and like quickly recap. Okay, Satish says continue. Do we have any more continue? Just looking for it. Thank you, Satish. Meanwhile, if all the people says continue, we'll continue. But for the time being, let me just close this program and create another class. And let's say we give it a name called game. So we have a game class created. And inside the game class, we'll have a very simple game. Okay. Cool. So this is one of the game that used to, I got introduced to it very late, but I think a lot of you might have played. So let me talk about that first. Now in Java, uh, when you want to comment out something, you use // right? So the name of the game is rock, paper, and scissors. Okay. So this is the game which is dependent on the concept of conditional statement, which is again a concept of programming language. And the conditional statement very much is same across all the programming languages that is there, right? Be it Python, be it C language, be it C++, you'll find a very much of a similarity when we talk about uh, the concept of conditional statement, right? But I think apart from conditional statement, we learn a couple of more things. That is, we learn to take input from user, we learn to work around with arrays, we'll learn a bit of, not a bit, but actually one of the iterative statement, where the loop and all of those mechanism kicks in. But before we actually start writing rock, paper, and scissor game, let's quickly have a look at a program which is capable of accepting input from the user, because the rock paper scissor is a game wherein you need to take an input from the user. Okay, so very simple. This time the name of my class is game, and I'm going to be writing those lines again. Static void main string args bracket. And now whenever you want to create a program which is capable of accepting input from the user, to do such thing, you need to add this line import, java.util.scanner. Okay, we'll talk about it. Now, what this line does is this line brings in the feature or imports in a feature of being able to take input from the user, right? Let's keep it simple to that extent. Import means there is a place where a lot of definitions of a programming language is saved, right? So how does a compiler, or how does a compiler knows that what is the meaning of class? How is the compiler knowing that what is the meaning of game? How does the compiler know what is the meaning of curly bracket? How does the compiler know the meaning of each of these words written? Let's say public static void main string args, right? So there is a place where compiler is getting education from, right? And that place is known as library. Okay. A library has so many books, so many information. A compiler will always go and check out the information of what exactly the definition for each of these keywords is all about, and will try to educate himself. Okay. So import java.util.scanner's work is basically to import uh, a utility package from the library. Let's say कि जाओ, it is like giving an instruction कि hey जाओ library में and वहां से कुछ import करके लाओ जिसका नाम java.util.scanner है, right? I want to use java.util.scanner. Consider java.util.scanner is like a subject, right? In for you, for yourself, let's say maths, right? अगर आपका maths, if you are preparing for your maths exam, if your maths exam is on hand, तो engineering life में ऐसा है कि 2 दिन 3 दिन पहले ही पढ़ना शुरू होगा एग्जाम से पहले. तो you would not have maths book already with you. So exam के आने के time से पहले you will reach out to your library and get a maths book from there, right? Now, that maths book, what exactly it is giving you? It's giving you access to all the definitions, all the formulas, all the meaning of different things, right? So as simple as that, the first line that we wrote, import java.util.scanner, is a line which is importing a feature uh, which will help us be able to perform inputs from the user, or will be able to take inputs from the user. As simple as that for now. Right? Util means utility, scanner is a class into it, right? If you want to correlate with some real life example again, then you can say here, there's this utility package. Consider it like a topic to your maths, mm, in the maths book. Let's say determinants and matrix, right? So there's this book, M1 book of your maths one. I'm not sure if the determinants in matrices still exist, and you are still taught. But let's say that is one thing that you are learning, and which is like the util. And then inside the determinants and matrix, you talk about uh, a particular class or of concept. Let's say you are implementing orthogonal metrics, right? So I think it's not orthogonal, yeah, right? I'm bad with the memory recall, but I hope. So that is my scanner, right? So it is exactly like taking the math book from your library and getting into a specific chapter and learning a particular concept or using a particular concept. Right now, utility has a lot of concepts, right? But we are going to be dealing with the scanner, as simple as that. Okay. So these dots are actually used to go deeper inside the concept of the book, right? So go look for a Java book, go inside a util, and then further go inside the scanner. So you put a dot, 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 and then you are getting inside each of these stuff, right? So because we are going to be writing a code which is capable of accepting input from the user, we need to import this thing in order to provide the power to the compiler to be able to do it, right? Now, first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be writing a message which says system.println. Ln means line into here. Over here, you can also remove ln. In that case, it will not be printing in a line. So over here, I'm just going to give a simple message which says, please type in a number. Okay? And then semicolon. So if I run this, if I compile it right now and try to run this code, so I'm getting a message which says, please type in a number, right? But I'm not capable of typing a number. So let's just put that capability into our code, right? So go back over here, and we are adding another line which says scanner sc is equals to new scanner system.in, right? Now this line adds the capability of of accepting input from the user, but it will still not work, because to make that happen, we need to uh, write something like, let's say, let's create an int, and the number variable is number and data type is int. I'm expecting you're aware of it. If not, please type in the chat. I'll just take care of it. And then we are doing over here is sc dot next int, the bracket, done. Okay. And then over here, what I'm doing is system dot out dot println. Over here, I'll write a message which says the number entered sorry entered by you is. So this is like a message that I want to display. The number entered by you is, and then I'll concatenate it with the number variable that I have used over here. Okay, and then the semicolon. Okay, very simple. So let's just run it, and then we'll try to understand each of the meaning of each of these particular lines. Right? Compile, close, run, and please type in a number. Now this box got enabled, right? I hope you can see it. This box got enabled, and this program is running until it gets executed fully over here. If you see now over here, if I enter a number, let's say 2023, type in a number 2023 and click on enter, it says the number entered by you is 2023. So the number that I entered over here, it picked it up and concatenated it with a message, right? Let's do a simple program again, and let's do some addition, right? So over here, I'm saying number 1, and then I'm creating another variable, number 2 is equals to sc dot next int. Okay, and then I'm creating a variable which is sum, and then I'm adding over here number 1. There shouldn't be a space. Number 1 plus number 2. Simple. And then I'll rewrite this message. The sum of the numbers entered are. एक छोटा सा ऐसा मैसेज बना दिया, ठीक है? And over here I'll write sum. Okay, so I would have to enter two numbers, one for number 1, another for number 2, right? So let's just run it and see how it looks like. And then those two numbers will be added by replacing these variables and will be given back to a variable called sum, which eventually will get printed over here. Let's compile it and try to run it. It says please type in a number. So the first number I typed in is 2. Then again, the box is still active. That means it is expecting some more number. So again, I said 3. So the sum of the number entered are 5. Now to make the program little more self-explanatory and others can understand, what we can do is please type in a number 1. I can give that message, right? And then I can give another message just after here saying please type in number 2. Okay, simple as that. You could have written this line below the scanner as well. It's fine, right? But I'm doing it like this way. So I'm creating, compiling it, closing it, running it. And over here it says please type in a number 1. If I say 2, then it says please type in a number 2. For that, if I say 5, then it says the sum of the numbers entered are 5. As simple as that. So finally, we have been able to create a code. Satish, I'll be explaining that line. I've been able to create a code which is very simple and capable of accepting a number from the user. Let me just remove all, or let it just be there. Okay. Now over here, we have this line So all of the lines, the only new lines that we are seeing over here is this, right? The scanner sc is equals to new scanner uh, uh, system.in, right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, that the meaning of this particular line is to give you a power of being able to accept and work upon the concept of input, right? Now, this scanner is nothing but a replacement of the line java.util.scanner, right? Instead of writing this entire line java.util.scanner, I think it happens in Python or so. कि आप एक वो बनाते हो, right? So java.util.scanner sc is equals to new java.util.scanner. So instead of writing this line again, we replace it with the class name. Scanner over here is the class name, right? So we replace it with the class name, which is scanner, right? So scanner over here is the name of our class that I imported from my utility package. Okay. Now I'm trying to create an object of that particular class, right? And the name of that object is sc. It can be anything. You can also write object. You can write your name over here. Can be anything, right? But I have used the keyword sc, right? Now I've created an object of my scanner class, and the name of the object is sc equals to new, right? So this is sc is the name of my object. Sc is the name of my object of my scanner class, and new is helping me allocate a memory to that object. Just a sec. I was about to sneeze. Sorry. And this new over here is helping to create a memory for that particular object. And then I'm rewriting the scanner again. So this is also a concept of constructor, which is something that we would study very later. But I think we are writing the scanner class again, and then over here we are writing system.in. So system.in is kind of like an instruction being given to be able to take input from the system through your keyboards, right? So whatever input that I give to my system, I am giving it through the keyboard, right? So I'm giving it the power to take an input from the system. As simple as that. So just to quickly reiterate, scanner is the name of my class. I've already imported it from the utility package, from the Java's utility package. And then sc is the name of my object. New is helping me allocate a memory to the object. Because agar object, if we have an object, it would require a memory. Varna rakhoge kahan, right? I mean, if you take an input, where are you going to store it? Where are you going to keep it, right? So it needs to have a memory allocated, right? So new is helping us do that. And then I'm again using my scanner class and entering over here system.in, which is adding a capability of accepting user from accepting input from the user through the keyboard. Okay. So Satish, did this line got clear to you? Then we'll move on to the next. Right. Now the next line is very simple. If you are coming from a C background, right, or if you've studied about C language particularly, it's very simple. I've written a data type that is int. Then I've written name of my variable. Number one is my variable name. Int is my data type, which is telling me that number one variable is capable of accepting the values in the form of integer, right? And I hope that you are aware of what integer is, right? And then what I'm doing over here is I'm writing sc, the name of my object, where the memory, I mean, not the memory, I mean the name of object, my object. Yes, basically just go memory allocation kiya gaya hai new ke through. And then I'm using the word known as next int, right? So when I say next int, that means I'm specifying that whatever value that will go inside my number variable will be of the type int, and that is integer. If I write next line, in that case, the value that will be stored in my variable number one would be of the type string. ठीक है? So हर चीज के लिए अपने अपने छोटे छोटे फंक्शन बन रखे हैं. If you see, I mentioned it earlier. Yes, Satish. If you see, and Satish, if you see, I mentioned it earlier that anything that has this opening, tiny opening and closing brackets, we also call it a small bracket, is known as a method or is known as a function, right? So next int has that opening and closing bracket. We can proudly say this is a method or a function. It's also already Satish has mentioned the same in the chat. Okay, so very simple. Now, and similarly, I have repeated the same thing again because I want more input from the user, right? One input I mean, and both of these inputs I'm expecting in the form of numbers, right? You can manipulate it to float, double, or string, right? Now, this line that we have over here, we are just summing up uh, the variable name is sum, and inside the variable name sum, which is again of the type int, the values that was entered by user and that was stored in my variable number one and number two are just simply getting added. Okay, as simple as that. Now, might be possible that yeah, let's not create another confusion. Let's just stick to simple. I just want to sometime I want to teach so many things that I try to. I think we'll stick to it. We'll not go beyond. So very simple. We've just done this. This will add up the numbers entered by user. Will save it and give it to sum. And over here, I'm just concatenating the value that is stored in my sum with a message, right? So the plus sign in a programming language has different roles. If the plus sign is in between the numbers, it will perform addition. But if the plus sign is in between the characters or a string, it will perform concatenation. Concatenation means merging them together, right? Or if it is written in between a string and a variable, and the variable is number, it will again merge them and put them together. Okay, so I hope that's the reason why we have used plus over here. That and over here the plus is not doing the add, but rather is doing a concatenation, right? Concatenating it with this particular uh, string. Yeah. So I think you are all clear with the concept of how to take input from the user, right? The simplest way to take an input from the user is what we see on our screen at the moment. Any doubt, any question in any of these lines or keywords or semicolon or bracket, feel free to ask. Right. Just a sec. I'm just sharing my window instead. Okay. So this was one of the simple code that we can write and can take input from the user. I think we'll wind it up over here, right? Because it might become overwhelming for the game, doing the game part and so. And we will extend this project in upcoming interactions of ours. So we'll limit. So one program that we wrote was around the simple hello world program of Java, and we tried to understand the meaning of each of these keywords and lines into it. And then the second program that we wrote was around how to be able to take input from the user and perform certain uh, calculation or task onto that part. Okay. So if there isn't any question, I would wind it up over here. But again, I just reiterate the things that I said in the start. Trust me, all the programming languages are equally powerful. Please do not try to compare them with each other without the context, right? There is no such thing as best programming language out there. Every language is best and they are made for a specific purpose. to solve a specific purpose. And if you are looking to pursue your career into that particular space or specific purpose, pick a language accordingly. Let's say if you're planning to do this machine learning stuff, go for Python, right? You cannot say ki C++ is the best language. I'll just do C++ over there, right? So that's how it would look like. And all the languages are just so good. So I'm just stopping my screen share over here. And yeah, that was the Sunday. We spent good Sunday, an hour or so. Uh, Satish, roadmap for domains is more like if you want to go and if you want to pursue your career into the web development space, I think so. Let me tell you this way: if you are focusing on to working with product-based companies and MNCs out there, right? Fang, Mang, ये सब वाली companies को if you're targeting, the ideal roadmap would be to pick up any object-oriented programming language and brush up your data structure algorithm skills and practice on that part. As simple as that, right? Only if you want to get into companies like Fangmang and product-based companies, जो आज के time पे काफी popular है, right? But if you want to pursue your career into the space of startups and all of these places, right, which by the way is a great place to learn, uh, and over there, the hiring is mostly around the skill basis, right? Let's say Cypher School is hiring someone who is good with web development, and you know web development, Satish. I'll interview you for web development skills of yours, and if you justify it, you will be hired. As simple as that, right? तो वहां पे as such data structure algorithm, dynamic programming concept is not a blocker in your selection. वो सब सारी चीजें if needed you can also learn while you are implementing the development part on the go in the company itself. ठीक है? So you need to decide. But if you talk about mobile application development, I think for Android, it's you need to know Java or Kotlin for that matter. I would recommend not to go come and learn like multiple languages, Kotlin or ये सब Java सीख लो उतना काफी है, right? If you want to go to iOS side, there's a Swift and all of those languages available now. Flutter is another language which is very popular, I would say. The best part of knowing Flutter is आप एक language से code लिखते हो and mobile application जो generate होता है we are for both the operating system, that is Android as well as iOS. So one stop solution is like Flutter, right? Over there for that matter. If you want to do Jyotirmoy, I'll talk about ML. But if you want to pursue your career into web development side, right, that's a very popular and a powerful space to be in. You can go ahead and choose the MERN stack, mean stack wali cheezein, right? I mean, you can choose the tech stacks which are based on JavaScript, right? Very popular, very large community, and and a lot of opportunities are there on that space, right? जावा से भी बैकएंड बनता है, फुल स्टैक होता है, एंड पाइथन से भी बैकएंड एंड फुल चीजें होती हैं. तो पाइथन की दुनिया में there's this thing called frameworks called Django, Flask. जावा की दुनिया में स्प्रिंग बूट, हाइबरनेट, ये सब सारी चीजें होती हैं. बट I think, but they are more like I mean, these are more, I mean, not Python, Django stuff, but Java stuff, Spring Boot, Hibernate are the things that are used in hardcore corporates of, जो companies हैं. But startups के space में, if you want to go, early stage startups specifically, they are mostly running on MERN stacks, mean stack concept, right? But my personal recommendation would be to, if you can just pursue a full stack in JavaScript, it would be the best thing to do. अगर web development side में जाना है तो, and can learn through MERN stack. Now MERN stack के भी बहुत advanced. JavaScript में भी there's this framework called React, right? And then there's this thing called React Native, right? So native से भी आप mobile application भी बना सकते हो, Android and iOS दोनों के लिए, right? So JavaScript के जो frameworks है ना, they are very powerful and they are very extensive, right? And if you know one language, JavaScript, it's easy to pick up the frameworks, right? So for web development domain, I would say if you can plan out to do the full stack through JavaScript, that is MERN stack type की चीजें. Roadmap for machine learning. It's very simple, Jyotirmoy. I think you need to start working, you need to pick up a programming language, Python, right? And then brush up your skills with all these concepts of machine learning, right? एंड मशीन लर्निंग के कॉन्सेप्ट्स बहुत तरीके से बने हुए हैं. देयर आर लाइक दीज algorithms that are created. You just pick up these algorithms, right, and practice and try to implement it and see कि क्या accuracy आ रहा है. धीरे धीरे आप you will move forward, and every time you take a step forward there's a better algorithm, right, which will give you better accuracy, better result, right? So the more algorithm and the more things you understand and you practice upon, the better you become, right? And all of those can be done, or and you can just simply get started by understand by having an idea of a programming language, which could be Python in your case, and you can gradually uh, you know keep working on and keep solving problems around different algorithms that exist, right? And I'm not sure how much you guys are interested in the research, Jyotirmoy, in the R&D part of ML, but if possible, do spend time on that, and spend time in trying to understand the logic behind the algorithm. Why was it created? How it is working behind, right? Instead of like just picking it up, using it, and getting the work done, right? So that's a difference. So how you use it and what is the curiosity level that you are putting in while you are learning is what makes the difference at the end of the day, right? So a simple way would be, Jyotirmoy, you can simply go on to the platforms. Let's say if I share screen with you, काफी सारे you can also go on to this cypherschools.com. ठीक है, यहाँ पे सारे there are a bunch of courses, Jyotirmoy, which is in the space of AI ML, machine learning stuff. You can pick these courses. If you're not aware of Python as a language, you can start from the Python and then gradually can move towards the other concepts of machine learning, and there's deep learning, all of these things that is available. अब काफी कुछ यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा you'll have to spend some time to explore and understand what is the program. But I think there are all of these tutorials that are there on the product is absolutely free for life for everyone out there. So if you're free, spend some time and start learning whatever is being taught in the tutorials. And I think that's the best way to get started. DSA कैसे start करें? Sir, I know till loops in CPP. Satish, DSA के लिए you don't have to become a hardcore CPP coder, right? C++ में कुछ कुछ चीजें हैं, जैसे बेसिक इटरेटिव चीजें, कंडीशनल स्टेटमेंट्स, आपका STL हो गया, थोड़ी थोड़ी चीजें हैं which you need to know in a programming language to get started with the data structure algorithm part. आपको कोई बहुत बड़ा महारत नहीं हासिल करना है इन C++, बट हाँ आई वुड से कि अगर एक छोटा सा रोड मैप फॉलो कर लो, पहले C++ एज अ प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से उसको कंप्लीट कर लो, एंड देन यू पिक अप अ कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ DSA, starting from arrays, linked list, all of these things. I mean, you will be better at it. So DSA is all about giving time and maintaining consistency, solving problems every single day, right? But for that, you need to get started. The bigger problem is कि start करें तो पता चल गया है, लेकिन start कब करें, या start हो चुका है तो कब तक मैं करूंगा, right? So you need to figure out why do you want to start, right? The bigger question, Satish, right? Agar you do not have a reason why do you want to do it, you will not be able to complete it, right? And you need to continuously recall yourself uh, the reason why you chose to start DSA, right? And DSA में just pick up यहाँ से CPP का कोई language. I think couple of new courses are also going to be introduced product पे, and soon you will be able to personalize the product experience according to your needs. आपको DSA पढ़ना है तो product will give you a good roadmap for you, Satish, jahan pe you can simply follow the DSA ki journey, right? I think that feature of the product and more courses would go live in a month or so. So my recommendation would be to complete a programming language and then to pick up the data structure algorithm tutorial and keep following it. Tutorials में क्या होगा, दो चार पांच क्वेश्चन कराए जाएंगे, but after you have done that, go out on the online platforms that are available out there, लीड कोड वगैरह पे, एंड वहां पे जाके प्रैक्टिस करो. एज सिंपल एज दैट. एंड ऑलवेज रिमेंबर रूल ऑफ थंब. जब भी प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हो, डजेंट मैटर आप कितने बड़े महारथी हो उस पर्टिकुलर टेक्नोलॉजी में, या आपको बहुत कॉन्फिडेंस आ गया कि आपको चीजें समझ में आती हैं, ऑलवेज स्टार्ट विथ द इजीएस्ट क्वेश्चन, right? And then gradually increase the level of difficulty. That will help you gain momentum and वो फिर आप कर ले जाओगे. अगर आप पहले ही कट हार्ड क्वेश्चंस लेके बैठ जाओगे, आप you'll exhaust, right? And you'll never be able to solve anything. So the only way to do it is complete your CPP journey, Satish, जो आपने शुरू किया है. अगर नहीं समझ में आ रहा, आपको लगता है नहीं CPP, you can also try core Java as a language as well, and then gradually pick up a data structure algorithm का एक playlist. एक मतलब भटकना नहीं, कोई एक playlist पकड़ो CPP का, वो complete करो. कोई एक playlist पकड़ो data structure का, वो complete करो. And then spend time, invest time in practicing. The more you practice, the better you become. That's it. Cool. और यहाँ पे साइफर स्कूल्स पे all of these courses यार, यहाँ मोबाइल एप्लीकेशन डेवलपमेंट वगैरह भी है. They are free. So you can watch it at your own pace, but you have to be consistent. वो consistency कोई नहीं दे सकता, ना मैं ना कोई और. ठीक है? But you need to figure out why do you want to do it. Great. Cool. Thank you so much everyone for joining in. If there's no more question for in next 1 minute, I would be winding up the session. And we have this plans of doing, inviting people to take workshop, do webinars every Fridays on Instagram and Sundays and Saturdays on YouTube. That's what we are planning, and Sunday particularly YouTube pe. So I'm not sure if you guys are already part of our event and workshop group, but if you are not, maybe Sanskar can drop it in the chat. So join that group, and you can freely request what's the workshop, what's the webinar that you want us to conduct for you, किस subject पे करना है. Not only workshops, but if you also want a guidance, career counseling sessions kind of thing, or you want us to call people from Microsoft, Amazon, all of these companies to help you have a better clarity, कैसे prepare किया था उन्होंने, आपको कैसे prepare करना चाहिए, all of those things. So, just let us know in the group, in the WhatsApp group, and we'll for sure, I promise, we'll be calling, inviting people, guests, and doing workshop, doing webinars on whatever topic you people want. And that's the objective. And CS will always be free no matter what. I mean, cypherschools.com that you would see, and the webinar workshop that we do, it'll be free for life always, right? So you do not hesitate कि कहीं कुछ पैसा वैसा और वो सब, तो just chill on that part, right? I mean, learning हमेशा free होगा, right? You can always learn from the bunch of tutorials that are available. Plus, you can always reach out to us and request us ki, this is what you guys want us to do for you, and we'll be the happiest people on the planet to do it for you guys. Yeah, great. So I think I did not had any more question. I would like to take a leave over here. And again, thank you so much. Do join the WhatsApp group. Feel free to drop us the request, what you're looking forward, and we'll catch up next weekend on YouTube. And Instagram pe live hoga. That is again a guest we invite, and we do live for you guys to help. So that we'll do next Friday. Bye bye. Bye Satish. Bye Sanskar. Bye everyone who is watching, who will be watching later the recording. And take care. Have a happy Sunday and happy learning. Bye bye.